Well, welcome. This is Dr. Joe Connor, the Connor Bubble, and we're here with a very exciting program with a very special guest, Mr. Michael Winters. We've known each other for a number of years, and we're going to be bringing you up to date on alternative energies, and we're going to be talking in two programs, talking about various aspects of alternative energies. But before we start, we want to bring you up to date on some very interesting aspects to what's going on at Pasadena City College. If you like to go to Europe, there's a very special program now that we're going to have a flyer to show you in a few moments that will show you how you can go to Spain this spring in 2013. And if you can't make it this spring, the contact person will be able to help you also for going to Costa Rica in the future. So if you got a pencil and paper, then we're going to show the text will show us the flyer about going to an intensive Spanish program in Madrid, be able to tour Spain, and you see the program right there. And the contact person for that is Dr. Lanath Bersad, and you can get in contact with him at Pasadena City College at area code 626-585-7433. That's 585-7433, and that's area code 626. And Lanath Prasad would be your contact person on this international exchange of Spanish, so you can learn how to speak Spanish a little bit better, learn a little bit more about the Spanish culture. You will actually live with the family in Madrid, which will only be about 20 minutes away from the college, which is in the center of Madrid. So if you want some more information about that, get in contact with him, and he will be able to help you out. So one of the things, too, before we get to our special guest, what's happening is that I am working with, at least attempting to work with 15 governors from the states that we helped and locate monies, over $1 billion of donor monies for undergraduate education last summer. So these 15 governors, we sent them a letter talking about establishing a GIS, GPS, ocean consortium. And we will be telling you more about that because we want to start 10 of those around the country, and therefore we will be specializing in this type technology, or GIS, which stands for Geographical Information Systems. GPS stands for Global Positioning Systems. So what we want to do is try to facilitate a way to learn more about the oceans and then take that information and quickly share with, for example, low-income housing projects through HUD, and also to help these particular centers to get involved with international exchanges. We already have contacts in China, at the Ocean University in China, that would love to exchange programs with us. We already have a school district in Southern California that would be interested in exploring with us some things that we can do with science and technology. Now, when I talk about science and technology, I usually tell people I talk about what I call STEM squared: science, technology, engineering, math, and medicine. And I've been involved with STEM squared activities since 1972. And when people talk about STEM, what most people don't understand is that STEM is only the province of the National Science Foundation. By law, that's the specialty of the National Science Foundation. The medical piece is the domain of the National Institutes of Health. And so when people say STEM, they really don't include medicine, even though the laymen think they're including medicine, but they don't. So that's why I coined the phrase STEM squared. And what we're doing in the different projects and having the guest Michael Winters here today is to show you the connectivity and how we can show you how things can be seamless, and talking about some very important issues pertaining to our energy and energy use and how it affects the climate. And what we want to do is give Mike a chance to share what he's been doing, and you're going to be quite impressed about some of the things that this young man has been doing and where he's going and his vision, and he'll be sharing it with you that you can apply it very readily. Mike, welcome back to the Connor Bubble.
Good to see you, Joe.
Good to see you. He and I met at a tour of the Metropolitan Water District tour of the Colorado River.
That's right.
And so we had a great time, and then so we want to have a chance for you to see why this gentleman is so significant for yourselves and your children in the schools in Southern California and even internationally. Mike, tell us, what have you been doing recently?
Well, Joe, you know, when I was taught at Gabrielino High School, we empowered young people to actually change the world. So one element was dealing with energy, of course, because as Thomas Friedman identified, the 5 major issues on the planet and the world is flat is energy. And it's a common denominator of those major issues. So whenever you deal with energy, the synonymous relationship with water comes into play as well. So as we pursued energy, water became a natural fit. That's how we met on the MWD water trip. How do we engage young people in energy and water solutions? So from that, the experience the students had created a nonprofit organization. And as all high school students do, they eventually graduate from high school and go on to college, leaving me with the responsibility to continue working in the area of the water and energy. And it became such a task that I finally decided to leave the classroom and be able to work with all kinds of students in schools in different places to expand that, and also have the freedom to go to various different countries and look at various different solutions. So Water Solutions for Life is one of the areas that we work in.
And your company is called what again?
Water Solutions for Life.
Okay.
And primarily that's a nonprofit that is doing international work in water-related issues.
Okay. Speaking of international, in our second part, I want to come back. I want to spend most of the time when we're chatting on the first part, domestic activities. But I really want to hear some interesting things that you're doing on the international scene. Because I think that can inspire a lot of young people to go beyond their 10-block radius of their home to go and do some international stuff, because you've done some exciting stuff. And you've also, so the audience will know, Mike came and spoke to my classes at Pasadena City College, quite inspirational. It was just phenomenal, and I heard things I'd never heard before. Particularly, I want to hear about this tree that grows 30 feet and in 3 years. I want to hear more about that tree.
Excellent. So some of the things that we have done locally in the United States is we've been looking at specifically school districts, and particularly K-12 districts for various different reasons. A number of physical properties in the whole United States are owned by schools, and they're the largest landholder of any entity in the United States in the built environment. And so when we begin to look at energy and energy efficiency and renewable, they become a primary source of being able to really do things proactively. As you mentioned STEM education, one of the key ingredients is engaging students in using the facility as actually the tool for the education process. So doing the assessment at the school to find out what is happening in our school, and then tying that to the curriculum, and then finding viable solutions. So when we look at things like water and water consumption on the school sites, what's the interrelationship between water and energy? So one of the things that we did with that is we piloted that at some local schools and some local school districts, and we engaged the students at doing an audit in their schools. That ended up leading to 120 school sites being audited and reviewed, where we actually touched 20,000 toilets and evaluated the flow rates and things like that, and found a way to save 700 acre-feet of water while employing students in a summer job program.
So how many acre-feet again?
700 acre-feet of water.
700 acre-feet.
So when you look at irrigation and built environment, toilet and bathroom use, we were able to look at that value. And that opened up other opportunities as well. So things that we're looking at in our built environment deal with hot roofs and cold roofs and hot cities and cool cities. And so one element that we realize is that in the urban built environment, we have a lot of concrete massing, asphalt, and those become heat retention centers. So where you have a rural area with a lot of grass, in the evening hours as the sun sets, it cools down faster. But in the city areas, we actually have a heat sink where it takes many hours longer for it to cool down because of the concrete massing. So we look at trees, and that's how one of the ways we found out about megaflora trees in terms of street trees and playground trees and putting trees into the community to create the shadow to reduce the actual heat sink on the asphalt. And so that's one of the symbiotic relationships that we actually have, is when students start down one path dealing with an issue with the climate, like you were saying, where heat is a problem, then they find solutions using environmental positive means. So that's the exciting part about the work that we do, is the purpose is always to allow the students to come up with ideas and then nurture those ideas, because one of the beliefs that we believe in is creativity and curiosity.
So as you're developing the curiosities of the young people, is there an age where you find most effective in terms of being engaged?
Well, you know, it's funny you would say that, because each age level, whether it's elementary age, we've seen young people become so enthusiastic at that level that it almost surprises you in terms of, wow, look at what these young people really can do. So that television show, You're No Smarter Than a Fifth Grader, is kind of true, you know.
I love that program.
You sit there and you say, wow, you know, the innocence and the intrigue. So curiosity creates a great opportunity for students, and then innovation can come in and solutions can be created. And so that's one of the things. Middle school students, once again, you know, they're a little bit more mature. They're able to get out and do some proactive things. Ultimately, being a high school teacher in the past, I'm a little biased, of course, because they're young adults. They really have that interest to go beyond and have that ability to get involved in the community a little bit more, and are willing to spend the time and have a little bit more time like that. So.
Well, so much time. I'd like to see that video you have.
So megaflora trees. Let's show the video, and then I can talk a little bit about
the specifics. Because I think it's self-explanatory, but I would want to clarify a little bit, because it's just quite impressive.
Okay.
So when you're ready for that, the engineers can show us that particular program. And as this program, what impressed me about this, as they're queuing it up, is that you will learn more about how trees can grow so fast and make a difference in the city. So if they're ready, they can start at any time.
Biomass is any organic material. Trees, garbage, yard clippings, agricultural, industrial waste, wood chips, sawdust, paper products, lumber scraps.
And my personal favorite, used cooking oil.
This is the start of a forest. It is also the start of recovery from the dependency on foreign oil.
Another form of biomass are energy crops like wood.
Since the most dense form of biomass comes from wood, what if there was a faster way to grow trees?
Typical tree is going to grow to maturity in 10 to 15, 20, even 30 years. The megaflora tree that we're planting will grow to full maturity within 3 years. And when you cut it down, it'll regrow from its own stump to another full-size tree in 3 years again. We're growing a tree that captures carbon. We're growing a tree that can be used for biomass, and we can use that biomass to create biofuels. Well, the concept is to plant trees in a plantation like we're seeing here, but then to also intercrop, meaning to plant an oilseed crop in between the rows of trees. And by doing that, we'll have the trees to harvest as biomass and use to produce bioalcohols. We'll also have the oilseed that we can harvest to produce biodiesel. The trees were initially developed to remediate soils, meaning to take contaminants out of the soils. There's a lot of land that can't be planted right now across the country that is contaminated with selenium, boron, various different kinds of heavy metals. And a lot of that's considered what we'd call marginal land. The trees and the oilseed crop we're dealing with clean that soil up and allow it to be used for food crops again. There are many, many tracts of land in California as well as across the country and in other countries where we can use the megaflora tree and produce significant volumes of biofuels to help our future.
Okay, megaflora trees. Give us a little background, Mike, on what exactly are we talking about?
So we're talking about a tree that actually does several different things. One, creates shade and shadow. So we have a fast growth tree that uses low water over 3 years to grow. So whereas a normal mature tree may take a long period of time to grow, it usually takes 7 to 10 gallons a day to water for the first 3 years. This tree takes a gallon a day to water, and it grows to 30 feet. The other thing is we have a piece of land in Southern California that's a brownfield. It's chemically not able to grow anything on it or build anything on it, that's under the control of a fossil fuel petrochemical company. And this is an opportunity where we can plant an urban forest, place these trees there, absorb CO2 that's generated from fossil fuels, and then we can interplant and intercrop, like they said, the oilseed crop. So one, the oilseed crop can be used as biodiesel for that energy company to run their in-house fleet.
Right.
And secondly, they can take the wood and they can use a wood chip boiler and actually generate electricity to operate their facility. And it's a zero net energy because they're only using 1/3 of the urban forest area per year. So it's a net positive for the energy. So it's a great opportunity.
What action, or I should say, put it this way, can you give us an example where such a fast-growing tree would be beneficial to say, residents in Southern California?
Well, I think one of the things is we have that wonderful new exhibit at Exposition Park, the Space Shuttle, but unfortunately there were a number of large growth trees that were cut down. And whereas a generation of 10 or 15 years may go by before we'll see really nice street trees, this would be a great application in the city of Los Angeles to actually plant these trees along street curbs and benefit neighborhoods that were devastated by the trees and the shade and shadow that's there. So that's one great example in the city. We can involve students in that process, community groups in that process, and really have a nice way of bonding together in an area that was a sad occurrence, but a positive outcome can be made of that. So that's a great application.
And what kind of actions would you like the audience to take in terms? We've talked about a lot of different things.
Sure.
What would you like the audience to do? How would they get in contact with you, or what should they do in terms of taking some action?
Well, those are great questions. So one of the actions that we're looking to do is actually engage people through the university, professors and schools, to, if they want to get a hold of me directly, Water Solutions for Life is a website. It's all one word, watersolutionsforlife.org.
Okay.
They can get my contact information through that. The main thing that we're looking to do is empower people through collaborative organizations, community groups, Rotary, Kiwanis, those types of organizations, faith-based groups, to begin to look at either Earth Day events that can actually occur at to step this off, and then also to look for opportunities within their local school districts to do things. So.
All right. So parents are also encouraged to get involved with their children.
Absolutely.
So do you see any potential in terms of career change, workforce issues?
Absolutely. You know, I think, Joe, you brought up a great opportunity here, and that is, in this whole thing, we need to get young people between the ages 16 and 30 back to work in this country.
Okay.
Our unemployment rate is higher than it's ever been for that demographic of people. And so when we start looking at green jobs, so getting out in schools and putting these trees into practice, or going out and actually doing cool roofs. So one of the things that we have here is a product that can be utilized, and that product actually is a cool roof material that's painted on. It's actually a roofing material. It's a white material. There are so many roofs in Los Angeles that are dark gray or gray, and this reflective coating will extend the life of the roofing material. It will bounce the UV and the infrared back into the atmosphere like snow does on the snow caps. And then it will also, during the heat times, reduce cooling cost by about 15% in terms of electricity consumption. So a great job for young people would be to go throughout Los Angeles and paint flat roofs. And one of the projects that we're looking to do on Earth Days this year is to look for community-based organizations that are willing to go into low-income apartment complexes that have flat roofs, and use this as a model to actually test it out, see how it works, show various people in various city organizations how this works and how the community can really make a proactive step to do that.
You know when Earth Day is roughly, which month that's in?
April 20th.
April 20, 2013.
Yeah.
So So we'll be ask you maybe come back and talk to us some more about that to get some more people involved.
Excellent.
What about some of the other things that you can suggest that people can get involved? We hear a lot about solar cells and all this kind of stuff.
Well, one aspect that I think we need to look at all the different parts and pieces. So we closed 1,000 military bases from 1980 to 2000. And in doing so, we have a great deal of land that is a brownfield.
Okay.
And so
you clarify the term brownfield, because many people hear it, but they might just think the ground is painted brown.
Yeah. All right, so brown means that green grows and brown means dead. So it's basically contaminated with some sort of chemical.
Like heavy metals
and things of that nature. And so you can't build on it, and you can't grow anything on it. And so a great example is the El Toro Marine Base down in Orange County, where they're selling it off for development, putting schools and housing down there and businesses, but there's a section of that particular military base that cannot be built on. So if we put solar panels in that particular section, we already have grid tie lines coming into that military base. It's right adjacent to an urban area.
Right.
We don't have to build new grid lines to do that. We don't need environmental impact reports because we already know what the soil conditions are.
Right.
So that becomes a real win application, and it gets local people employed in a local situation to where they don't have to travel to a desert, where they don't have to travel to a remote location to build the solar systems and do that. And we're not talking about residential issues or dynamics. We're actually using open space that can't have anything on it. So it's a great solution.
You have a solar panel. You want to show us what one looks like?
Sure. So one of the interesting things about solar is I always like to tell people that once this solar panel is installed, not a single drop of water is used in generating the electron. So most electricity that's powered by natural gas plants or other types of steam generation consume 17 gallons of water for every single kilowatt hour of electricity that's generated. And so with this, we conserve water. So it really is not a comparison of kilowatt hour to kilowatt hour. It's a sustainability issue.
Okay, I think you raise a very good point, because a lot of times people just talk about how much it costs to generate some power from this compared to gas, but they don't take into account the water.
Absolutely.
And because water comes from the faucet, and then we don't really appreciate it. Except this year is estimated west of the Mississippi is going to have a severe drought condition.
Absolutely.
And so if we can start looking at things to conserve water, what is it saying in a text is saying, whiskey's for drinking and water is for fighting over.
Absolutely.
And we're going to see serious fighting over water rights. And so this right here is something that people need to consider, a more holistic understanding of alternative fuels.
Right. So we look at it as sustainable because we take the whole picture. So wind, once a wind generator is set up, it uses the wind to generate that electron. So when we look at the carbon footprint of moving water, we look at the amount of electricity it takes to move water, so we can use that water to actually generate electricity for our homes. It becomes this very large cycle of impact that we don't see. And if we can reduce that electricity consumption, and we can do that, that's the value of energy efficiency, of reducing light bulbs. That's actually the difference in terms of how many lights we turn on, because now we have a water impact on that.
Right.
So we can save water while saving electricity. And then the other nice thing is all of this can be sold on the carbon market in Europe. So we don't need a carbon market here in the United States.
Right.
A prison in San Diego County actually installed their solar panels and sold the carbon credits for installation of their solar in the European marketplace to offset the cost.
Interesting.
So great way to do things.
Well, we have a few moments left, so I'd like to have people know how to get in contact with you, get some more information. So if you can give your contact information again, so people can, more information on alternative energy. And then we're going to, this is just our part one, we're just sort of scratching the surface. And I want to hear more about part 2 when we get into this little device in terms of this water straw. So I just want to hear about this. But give us a way for people to get in contact with you.
Sure. Well, I don't mind. I take cell phone calls from various different people all the time. So my cell is 626-319-6776. That's 626-319-6776.
Okay.
Oftentimes it goes to voicemail, but I return calls within probably half a day.
Okay.
And then the website again is Water Solutions for Life, all one word.
Okay, and it's plural, solutions.
Solutions, thank you.
Okay.
And it's .net.
Okay.
And then my email is winters_michael@sbcglobal.net.
Okay, very good. So my special guest is Michael Winters, and we're talking about solutions that involve a more holistic approach and talking about water, energy. And just so you will know, I like to always talk with people and let them know when we talk about words what they actually mean. The word energy basically means the ability to do work or the ability to change matter. And so we're talking about different ways to accomplish that: solar cells, wind energy, biofuels. We've been talking about all of these different things. And if you want to know more about this, this gentleman is a person that you can talk to. He's approachable, and I think you'll find him quite entertaining in terms of his life experiences that we can share on future programs. But young people, we want you to take to heart, this is an opportunity that can transform your life and a career that has growth potential. Mike, last few words as we wrap up this segment.
Well, I think you nailed it, and that is career opportunities and empowerment. So I think the key ingredient is we can create a solution for this economy by engaging young people in solving the issues.
Okay, sounds very good. So again, this is Dr. Joe Connor, the Connor Bubble, and we thank you for watching. And if this is, we want to help you to get engaged and change the difference in your life and the life of your family. And so we are talking, that's why we bring you these programs, bring you these exciting people who are doing really positive things in their community, because we want you to know that it's not as bleak as some of the people in Washington, D.C. seem to be sucking their thumbs when not solving the problems that people have, but there are solutions that you can participate in. Thank you for watching, and you have a fantastic day.
Hey, it's great.
That's great.